One thing that happened, I asked President Trump in the Oval Office about those criticisms of his administration from Marjorie Taylor Greene. We are now in the middle of witnessing a major blow up between the two of them. One that a lot of people probably predicted would or did not expect would ever happen, with the president attacking her and her now calling the president, saying that he is lying about her and that she believes this is all over him trying to bully other Republicans into not voting in favor of that discharge petition on the Epstein files this week. I wonder what you make of what's playing out.
It's like they put truth serum in the MAGA water cooler, and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump are both condemned to tell the truth about the other. Everything each says is right. They are narcissists. Marjorie Taylor Greene is right that Donald Trump has no domestic agenda except to harm ordinary people, and Donald Trump is right that Marjorie Taylor Greene is crazy. So it's useful information all around. But what I worry most about this and the Epstein files and all the things that Trump has tried to keep control of, escaping his control, is he has one big distraction in his hand, and I fear he may be about to deploy it. We are seeing in the Caribbean right now the largest buildup of U.S. naval forces in the region since the Cuban Missile Crisis. There's no plan. There's no authorization by Congress. There are no regional partners. It is not a war that should be fought in this way at this time. But one thing it would do is change the subject.
So you're worried that he could take action on a foreign policy move to distract from what's happening in Washington?
Yeah. I think that explains a lot of his foreign policy operations, but the forces are there. They've been pulled away from other theaters where they might be needed. They're building up to something. Again, they have no authorization. They have no allies. They have no goals. But boy, would it change the subject. And boy, does Donald Trump right now need a subject change.
Yeah, and we've seen what's been playing out. Obviously, the president was saying tonight he didn't know if he'd take that step. He wasn't sure. We know he's been briefed on options there. But on this, in and of itself, do you think that that is the reason he's criticizing Marjorie Taylor Greene, though, is because he doesn't want other Republicans coming out and what, we've told could be a huge snowball effect next week when Speaker Mike Johnson actually puts this on the floor, that a lot of Republicans could end up bucking the White House and voting for this?
I think he genuinely can't help himself. I don't know that Donald Trump has fully formed strategic plans. He has a lot of impulses. He's also testing the old magic. After one of the things that has happened after the elections in New Jersey and Virginia and elsewhere, and Georgia maybe most significantly, because there was an all-state race that Republican candidates lost, is a lot of Republicans have to be thinking, what about my future? I used to think the greatest hazard to my future might be that Donald Trump would criticize me, but maybe actually now he can't help me and might even hurt me. And that's a little bit of discipline lost. And Marjorie Taylor Greene may be the test case where a lot of less inflammatory Republicans are saying, if she gets away with this, we can all get away with it.
Yeah, and she's obviously someone who has been a huge advocate of his and very loyal to the president, especially after January 6th, when everything happened. And obviously, no one can forget Biden's...
She's not a good actor. I mean, she's not a hero of the Republic, but she is somebody who may be just crazy enough to actually believe the things that Donald Trump says without believing them.
So a lot has happened tonight. Buckle up. Marjorie Taylor Greene is learning what it feels like to be on Trump's bad side. She has been one of the most vocal Republicans calling for the full release of the Justice Department's investigative files on Jeffrey Epstein. And now President Trump tonight is unendorsing. He is withdrawing his endorsement of Marjorie Taylor Greene and writing on Truth Social that all I see wacky Marjorie do is complain. And then he added that I can't take a ranting lunatic's call every day. There was a lot there. So you can go and then talk about a lot. Then MTG fired back with screenshots of text messages that she claims that Trump is lying and that she did not call him, also saying that it is astonishing, really, how hard he is fighting to stop the Epstein files from coming out. She argued that she has been one of Trump's strongest supporters, but that she doesn't, quote, worship or serve Donald Trump. On top of unendorsing, he actually said that he would support anyone who would be primarying her in the upcoming election. Who wants to take this one on?
Well, I can tell you that is not unusual in politics. Political romances are often short-lived. And she has been critical of him not only about the Epstein files, but about his involvement in foreign affairs. And I don't mean with women. I mean in various parts of the world.
You said it, no.
Just to clear the table on that one. and so it's not surprising that they have had a breakup of sorts. After all, he didn't give her a ring. He just supported her for a little while.
Listen, this fire is spreading. I mean, right, it started off talking about Epstein in the beginning. Then during the shutdown, she was one of the few Republicans that correctly identified Donald Trump's unwillingness to deal with the ACA subsidies and lower health care costs for Americans as being one of the reasons why the shutdown occurred.
Yeah, she was very outspoken about that.
Now she's talking about foreign policy. This is not going away. Whatever is going on between them seems to only be heating up, and I think the rest of us should get the popcorn.
I think
They're here for it.
And a war with words, sorry, Scott, a war with words with Donald Trump is such a risky business that I cannot believe she has the bravery to engage in it, because even if she was right, she's still going to lose.
Is there an example of anyone beating Donald Trump at this game?
Never. This is his game, and he's great at it, and she's barking up a tree that she's going to fall on her really hard.
You know, it's interesting. He has some people who profess to be strong supporters who do oppose him more often than the people that you might not think are his strongest supporters. She's one of them. Thomas Massie in Kentucky is another one. Rand Paul, my home state senator, he takes on Trump, although they profess to be Trump supporters. In this case, I think he had the order out of order. I trace all this back to his decision, the righteous decision to strike Iran. She was against it. So were some of the people who occupy that wing of the party. He defied them. And since that time, they all seem to be stridently picking at him on this issue or that. And then, of course, everybody knows in Washington, Miles, you know, the fastest way to get in front of a television camera if you're a Republican is to come out and crap on Donald Trump. And so that is what she is doing.
But, you know, Scott,
that is what she is doing.
I
because
trace
she
it back further than that, Scott.
Over these issues, and that's what happened.
Scott, I trace it further back than that. I trace it back to 10 years ago when you said Donald Trump was an authoritarian. And you know what, Scott, I've got to hand it to you. That was a remarkable forecast. Because 10 years later, I think you called it. Here's Donald Trump today, the man with the heart and soul of a fascist, showing us he now has the bona fides. By tonight, ordering investigations into American citizens. That's why members of his party, that's why members of his
Why are you so upset he's running the executive branch?
For the same reasons you predicted he shouldn't. For the same reasons, Scott, you said he violated his oath and he should never be back in that office.
I happily voted
That's why I'm upset for the man being in the Oval Office.
I happily voted for him 3 times.
I know that.
The alternative was terrible.
And a lot of your friends were shocked.
Yeah, well, a lot of my friends would have been shocked at you trying to subvert the elected president of the United States, which you did.
Well, I proudly did. I proudly
Some
said
mid-level
to the
staffer
country
substituting his judgment for the elected president of the United States.
Well, Scott, I would have loved to have seen you stand up to it.
Good luck.
Back to MTG. Is it the sign of a changing tide? Is it the sign, or is it a singular one back and forth between one member of one Republican who is getting into a fight with Donald Trump? Or do you think there is a possibility that it is the beginnings of Republicans seeing past the Donald Trump era?
Well, because, you know, there's actually been a bipartisan push here. Let's remember that it was Representatives Thomas Massie of Kentucky, a Republican, and Ro Khanna of California, a Democrat, who jointly corralled all the votes they needed to get a floor vote over the head of Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, who has done everything he can to stonewall this. And that's why you're going to get a floor vote on the House next week. And I think representatives in their districts are close to their voters. They understand that this is an issue the voters care about, because the story that Donald Trump and his allies told was that Jeffrey Epstein had documents and the goods on elite people and elite institutions that were smothering the needs of average voters. And when Trump got into the White House, he was going to allow transparency to shine on all of this. And now he's not. And the question remains, why not?
Lisa, let me ask you about something else that caught our eye this week in the last couple of days. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche got into a bit of a social media skirmish and admitted in this post he was responding to George Conway, who, of course, has been very critical of the Trump administration and is a very high-profile lawyer himself. He admits here that the Justice Department didn't have these materials that have been released now by the House Oversight Committee. When he went and interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's convicted co-conspirator, in prison earlier this year, your reaction to that?
That doesn't surprise me. First of all, it's not entirely clear from reading the transcripts of Todd Blanche's interview with Ghislaine Maxwell what documents he reviewed. It was not a document-heavy interview. In fact, it was light on documents entirely, right? Normally, if you take a deposition, you're showing people communications in which they were involved, and you're asking them to explain now, from the benefit of hindsight, what were you thinking at the time? What was that person communicating to you? How did you understand that? None of that took place. It was all very high level and really designed for the purpose of that one statement where Ghislaine Maxwell says, I never saw Trump do anything inappropriate. He always was a gentleman to me. That is all Todd Blanche wanted from those 2 days. Now, when he says the Department of Justice didn't have these emails, I actually believe that. And that's because at the time that DOJ conducted its investigation, it did 2 raids, one of Jeffrey Epstein's home in New York, one of his home in the Virgin Islands. They took a bunch of stuff, including electronic.
We don't have to hand it to MAGA. We don't. But we do have to acknowledge this as a watershed moment where Marjorie feels comfortable enough to basically come after Trump, and pretty directly. Even a few weeks ago, where she was disagreeing with Trump, she said, I want these files released. She was still almost, I guess, like really bending over backwards and forwards to try and say, well, you know, I love President Trump. He's great. He's wonderful. He's glorious. It's just, he's maybe being misled by bad advisors here, and I hope he finds the way forward, and I still love him. And it was very much like the way that, like, Trump gets soft criticism sometimes from Republicans, which is like, oh, he's great. It's just he's being told the wrong things, and he just needs to listen to better people. And when he does, he'll make the right decision, like he always, like that kind of Republican, like rigmarole, right? But Green's much more direct here. Much more direct, saying that Trump's lying about her, saying that he's being disloyal to the vision of MAGA, saying that he was supposed to go to Washington to fight this corruption, to fight this deep state stuff, and yet now he wants me to be a cult member. She goes on to basically say, like, look, I'm a Christian. I don't worship Donald Trump. I worship the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And look, I'm not, again, with Marjorie Taylor Greene, I know a lot of this is cynical. She wants to run for Senate or governor or something, and distancing herself from her MAGA past is the best way to make that happen. That is true. Nonetheless, there's a difference between, you know, doing that and just actually like lighting a torch and throwing it at Donald Trump, right? And watching it go kaboom. This is, and other MAGA people are doing it too. They are quitting on MAGA and saying, at least on this issue, we're siding with the friggin' Democrats. That's what they're saying. Because it's like, look, if you're going to make me choose between Democrats who disagree with me on tax policy, or whether or not people should be allowed to go to Freaky Island and do whatever they want to whoever they want, no matter their age, I guess on this one, I'm with the Democrats, guys. This never happened before. You saw people like Kinzinger and Cheney, conservatives but never MAGA, come after Trump. You've never seen MAGA act like this.